in Ethiopia, one of the challenges that we are focusing at is issue of land fragmentation. Like land is so fragmented in Ethiopia. For example, a given household may have on average a land size of 1 hectare, but you don't get that 1 hectare in one place.
Different parcels.
It's like small parcels all over. And the fact that we have so much fragmented land, it will affect farmers' productivity in a way. Farmers have to travel from one plot to another. Sometimes reaching all plots may take more than 50, 60 kilometers. And that has a lot of implication even for the household, because like women have to travel, and traveling long distance will expose you for some kind of violence.
And you don't have transport like
Exactly.
people, you have to carry all the equipment. And all that.
Exactly. And spending more time on walking can affect students' ability to attend school because they have to spend more time walking, and farmers walking a lot of time walking from one parcel to another. If you can convert that to economic value, for example, we have certain like around 284,000 tons of grain are lost because of those long distance walks. Okay. So our effort is to resolve this issue using land consolidation as an important land management instrument. So yeah, it involves a lot of legal issues because you need a legal support, you need consent from the public, community at large, so that we can make at least, for example, if you can see.
There's also probably issues with the productivity of
Exactly.
the land. I'm not going to give a piece of concrete for a piece of
Exactly. I mean, you cannot go for mechanization when you have a very small plot of land.
Steep or something.
Exactly. And in fact, it's aggravated because of inheritance. As the population grow, you have to give your lands to your kids. Then the more the kids, the smaller the land gets. Then it becomes low productive, because if you have a small plot of land, and investment becomes an issue. Okay. Because you don't have enough money to.
It's not worth it to
exactly.
buy a whole big machine.
Exactly. So land becomes scarce. So like a lot of people coming in the next 10, 20 years, and if the land remains constant, then you can imagine what would be. It would be like in those days. So now the government is giving attention to land fragmentation. That government wants to use like instruments like land consolidation as an instrument to address the issue of land fragmentation. That's where our joint engagement with the government comes. There is a law that has been put in place.
So you're not looking at this inheritance laws. You're not trying to get like first son or daughter gets all the land and the rest.
Yeah, probably like in the policy framework, there is an attention given to the way to address land fragmentation. One of it is setting up some laws that can discourage this fragmentation. In fact, you need also investment in other sectors so that you can absorb labor to the other sectors. But that requires a lot of investment, and that investment has to be financed by agriculture itself, because agriculture is
the source of everything.
Exactly. Yeah, so now we are working to address land fragmentation. Like you can imagine how the plots are so small and yeah.
And that's also, I mean, how are you going to watch that nobody else is going to steal your crops? Or is that not an issue?
No, that's not an issue. I mean, farmers know. Yeah.
Oh, they know.
Yeah.
All right. So what's so that's the situation. Give me some numbers here. What are we looking at? How many million of people are sort of affected, and how many can you help probably with that?
Like in Ethiopia, we have about 70 million farm households. Like a farm household has an average 5 members. So you can multiply and imagine how many people are living in the rural areas. Okay. Then, like most of the farmers, you can see these are the main regions in Ethiopia, showing you the average holding per farm household. Like on average, our farmers hold 1.88 hectare. This is only for the 3 regions. We have about 12 regions. So if you add up the average for all 12 regions, the average goes back to less than a hectare. Okay? And out of that less than a hectare of land, which a family holds, it's not, you don't find it in one place. Like the average is like 3.31 parcels. Okay? Like divided, like 0.5 hectare, if you divide it by 3, then it's
about 1.5.
So like the average parcel is like 0.6 hectare.
Okay.
Yeah, and you have to work to cultivate, to prepare the land, to harvest, and to transport. You see, the frequency that you travel, the more it increases, the more time you waste walking.
Yeah.
And if you account that time in economic terms, you can incur a loss as much as 284,000 tons of grain. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you take it in money.
Is that your vision for your project, is to get rid of that loss?
Exactly.
So
exactly. Not only that, but also this, you see, like
the fragmentation.
the more fragmented the land, the more borders you have. And the more borders you have, the likelihood of conflict also increases. You know, someone may think that because it's small, you have no patience or room to compromise any space to your neighbor.
Yeah.
So if you see any kind of challenge in that area, definitely there will be conflict in that area.
It's like when people get too close in a bar and they get too close.
Exactly.
There will be some fight at some point.
Exactly. And in fact, this time around, the government of Ethiopia has widely implemented this land registration in Ethiopia, so that everybody will have his land registered, like a digital one. They have the size, the location. Yeah, that will minimize the conflict, and that is also the minimum condition that you need to implement land consolidation. Because if you want to consolidate your land, I have to make sure that the land you're referring to is yours. And that's how you get it on the land registration. So once we know you have it on the registration, that was the time we start to plan for land consolidation. So land consolidation basically requires consent from the community. At least we have 3 forms of land consolidation. One is on voluntary basis, like you and myself agree, okay, my plot is more on that side and yours is on this side. Why don't we just, move yours to mine and mine? Then that becomes a joint agreement. So we call it voluntary land consolidation. And the other one is...
And is there some encouragement, some benefit given by government if that happens? Or is there money for that?
That's what we are working towards. We want the government to provide incentive.
Some incentive.
Exactly, for the farmers to do that. But the limitation is that you cannot control you don't have control on the structure of the land that's going to be created as a result of land consolidation that's based on voluntary basis. Because you don't need, we are not interested only in consolidating the land, making sure that it has a particular structure, that size and structure that will be easier for the mechanization to operate, okay? And with land consolidation, we also want to make sure that every parcel has access to road, okay? So that farmers can easily reach out to their plot, even cultivate using tractor without crossing the other plots.
And you're also working towards creating cooperation, cooperatives?
Not necessarily, but it could be part of that process, because it could be one of the incentive for farmers to participate in land consolidation, okay? So the second one is a mandatory or kind of majority-based, not mandatory, majority-based, where you ask the community to vote whether they can accept land consolidation in that area. So we expect to have something like between 85 to 90% of the community to agree to implement a land consolidation. And the other one is a mandatory, where, for example, if the government wants to implement irrigation in that area, definitely it will be mandatory on your part to leave that land for the government has to compensate either for you to leave that place or to work in a cooperative format so that you can benefit from the irrigation facility. So in our case, we're working using a majority-based land consolidation scheme where we get consent from the public. And then based on that consent, we conduct feasibility, because for land consolidation to happen, you must make sure that it's not a slopey land, because you cannot work mechanization on slopey land. Yeah, and we look at the slope. Quite a number of parameters are there to identify the feasibility of the land. Once you know the feasibility, then you go for the consent of the public, then you go on implementing. And there is a re-allotment of land once, because it changed. Like if you have 1 hectare in 3 places, but if you want to bring it in 1 place, then you give out those 3 certificates and you'll have 1 certificate. So that re-allotment will involve reissuing your registration. Because,
okay.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you there.
Yeah.
Great explanation.
Sorry, yeah.
You ask yourself, why is it not happening before? Why is it? So there's factors that work against you. There's conflict. There's political economy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of livestock in,
Exactly.
pastoralists want to sort of run through. So maybe you can tell us maybe 1 or 2 factors that slow you down with getting where you want to do and what you do about it. I mean, it's not a perfect world.
Yeah. One of it is like it requires a legal framework, okay? It needs a political buy-in and political support.
And that is people.
Exactly.
Politicians.
Exactly. So you need to have this supported in a formal document, like in a law where the parliament enacts, then that gives you a support to go ahead implementing it on the ground. And the other one is having the law itself is not enough. You need to have the capacity to implement. So we need to create capacities in the land institutions, in the land sector, so that they can implement the law on the ground, okay? And usually in our project case, we also want to create caves on the ground. So that's why we have pilot areas where we implement this land consolidation, so that it will, generate some evidence as how it's possible and how it can impact the productivity and the conflict resolution issues and other reduction of these costs associated with losses. So the legal framework, the policies are very important in this case, and the capacity to implement is also an important constraint which we want to support the government.
And the communication.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah, because one of the most important parts of land consolidation is transparency. You need to be transparent, because land is so closely attached to the society in Ethiopia, the community in Ethiopia. So it's so sensitive. Until you are transparent, you'll not get anything positive from the public. Everybody's suspicious, because that's life. If you take their land, then they are done.
Yeah, or you take their livestock, one of the two, yeah.
Exactly. So communication is something that you have to do anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So to wrap this up,
if
you would have to go for one thing that you could wish for it to become true, just like that, an advice or something, what would that be?
You mean for
these things to happen? What is your advice to politicians? What is the most critical thing that you think would really make this happen?
Yeah. First thing is, because apart from land consolidation, we also work on handling issues in landscape framework. So one of the most important thing in our case is making sure there are sectoral coherence, because every sector is working in silo, and it's making it even more difficult, because when you plan this way and this way will come against you. So sectoral coherence becomes very important, and that can be facilitated through joint platforms where interest groups interest groups can communicate among themselves and share their interests. It's very important to understand the interests of the other side before you impose your interest there, so that we can have a trade-off that's good for everybody. Okay, so I think that the sectoral coherence is quite very important in our case.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you.